coming from Hockey Wilderness, an article. I think they've got like a newer like junior writer. I think he's like, this is like his first or second article that he's written for them. And it's basically about how Bill Guerin is Chuck Fletcher because he is building the new country club by signing all these older players. It's quite fascinating. Even went so far as to compare the Minnesota Wild to the New York Islanders when talking about the top 10 oldest rosters in the league. It was basically, I think it was like Pittsburgh and Washington was, fuck it, we're just going to ride these like aging stars until they're dead. Then there was like the Colorado, Dallas, whatever, and it's like actual contenders. And then Minnesota and New York Islanders were just plain old. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Z? Is Bill Guerin basically Chuck Fletcher?
You know, I think he might be a little bit different. You know, I don't see the exact same situations. I do think it's different. Again, I understand why people don't like the re-signing players that are over 30. I get all the hype has been about the prospect pool and how good these young studs are and how good they're going to be in the NHL and the like super like high-end prospects. Totally get it. What I would say is none of these are to like the magnitude everyone's throwing at it. Like nothing is like Foligno re-signing at that like that's not the same thing as the Islanders throwing, was it 7 years at like Mayfield, 7 years at what's his name? Oh my God, it's gonna drive me nuts. Engvall, that one was bananas.
No, that is the exact same thing as a 2-year, $4.125 million contract to Zuccarello. I don't know how you don't see this.
Yeah, you're right. I'm an idiot. Listen, I love that people are excited about the prospects because they're kids I've been watching forever. And I'm like, I do want them to get looks. Now, if people don't understand the bind they're in with the buyouts in the cap situation and why there are certain guys still here that are signed and why they had to do that and why they're like the reason they're slow rolling things with bringing young players in, just keep being a fan. It's fine. I'm not going to get mad at people for being fans how they want to be or be like react the way that they want to react or how they feel about certain re-signings or like situations or whatever. I would say that's not a guarantee. Like you really don't want, like, let's say Yurov, Ogren, who's going to all come over at the same time. You really don't want to like throw those three in your top six and be like, yeah, they're going to nail it and they're ready. Because if they're not, then you are in trouble. You'll be worse off than you were. But again, I completely understand people like not wanting to. I don't see the parallel with the Fletcher thing. That one is a little bit of a stretch for me. But
Parisian Suter, old. Foligno,
still on the books.
Old.
Still on the books.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's that Guerin hasn't found an effective way to get Parisian Suter officially out of the organization because they're technically still here. Like, right. Does Guerin really want them gone? Who's to say? He's keeping them around for no reason.
I hear that his plan is to be president of hockey ops and the country and have them both split GM duties, actually. So he wants them here forever.
Electric. Now, the other piece, though, to this is, again, going off what we talked about earlier, it's the prospects, right? And, you know, John, back to John's self, like, prospects aren't getting a chance. We talk about Rossi not even getting a single look preseason on the first line, second line, whatever. We have a lot of the young players that people feel like Walker and Beckman should be getting a shot on the NHL roster. And obviously that's not feasible right now with the cap. Like, do you see any concerns with just the lack of getting young players in besides it's literally Rossi and Faber?
No, because maybe I'm the wrong one to ask because I am from Boston.
Yeah, that's right. You like old balls.
Everyone is shitting themselves over Matt Poitras. I mean, he was phenomenal this preseason. He probably should make the lineup. But
I feel like you were too.
yeah, he was nasty this preseason. I am worried if he's a top 6 center for them this year. Yeah. But you know what? It was fun.
But you know what?
And there's also no options. There's also 0 options, and everyone's like, they've never drafted anybody that's hit. It's like, well, half the lineup, but okay. Anyways, I'm not like because since Judd brackets come in, there hasn't really been any kind of like for me. That's when the whole pool reset, right? When bracket comes in, like they stopped getting rid of every single prospect for like maybe a shot of the first round of the playoff. Yeah, exactly. They stopped doing that shit. So I'm not concerned about it really at all because you also finally got Kaprizov to come over. It's like, oh shit, okay. Technically, he was a prospect for the last fucking 6 years. And I think it's just every team is different with their situations. That's where I keep coming back to. It's like you can't look at like the Carolina Hurricane. It always comes back to what's the fucking oh my god, now I'm forgetting his name. The Rossi draft. Who's
God.
Why am I
Seth Jarvis.
Yes. Yeah. We can't keep doing that. Like we can't keep going back to like that or like in Florida there. Lundell. There we go. If that went over,
I was going to make you get that one because that one people yell about way more than Jarvis.
I would have been like, oh, my internet's gone. That would hit leave studio. I think every situation is just so unbelievably different. Like,
yeah,
there's no other teams that have the same situation as Minnesota with, honestly, the salary cap. Like, there's just no one's buying out 2 dudes for $14 million. Like, no one's doing that and still making the playoffs, by the way, and put up over 100 points in the regular season. No one's doing that shit. So I do think it just is completely dependent on the scenario. And like when they brought in Matt Boldy, hit immediately, he's in. Kaprizov came over. That was completely different, obviously. But there he is. Faber signs right out of college, hits, we think, still early. But right now he's penciled in your top 4D. So at this point, we're looking at it. And like realistically, if people want to say like the Beckman thing, like he has not been ready before this year.
Sure.
Last year was his best year that he played. And it also went
is it a problem? He was
at the fucking third round pick, by the way.
At what point has he been in the AHL too long? Like, can a player be down there too long to the point where it's a detriment to their development?
Even with Beckman, I mean, I don't know if there's one arbitrary number or like one age that you're like, all right, he can't.
I'm not asking what is the duration, but I'm asking like, is there a duration that exists? Like, could a prospect that's not like a blue chip, right? Like, we're not talking Connor Bedard. We're talking a prospect that's developed and is now ready for NHL play. Does keeping them in the AHL extra years hurt them in any way?
Yeah, I mean, like if Beckman's there this whole year, I'm like, okay, at this point, either find a way. If he like let's
trade him or get him in, right?
He's right, exactly. Like at this point, it's like, well, what are we doing now? Like what more is there to prove, really? Like again, like once a guy proves it, if there's an open slot and you don't throw him in there, it's like, okay, well then what exactly? Like, what the fuck were you even doing with this? He likes home balls.